Good evening, and welcome to the Norton Board of Selectmen's meeting. Today is February 6th, 2020, and let the record show that all members are present except for Mr. Flaherty. Also present is Michael Units, Town Manager. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
They moved it.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We got slightly confused there. We had photos taken for the town report this evening, and the flag was moved from where it usually is. So we neglected to remember what we had done. Okay, first order of business is to vote to appoint full-time police officers. Chief, you want to come up?
Good evening. So we have two appointment requests tonight. These are to replace two retiring police officers. One will be at the end of June and one is at the end of August. So the plan is to get them ready, put them through the police academy so that when the retirements occur, they'll be ready to go. The first appointment is Ashley Sabati. Ashley has been a special police officer with the town of Norton. She's a graduate of Nichols College, obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. She's also attended the Basic Reserve Intermittent Academy as prescribed by the MPTC. She's passed all the requirements for pre-employment, which includes the medical, the psychological, and a background investigation. And pending her appointment tonight, she'll go to the Cape Cod Police Academy February 17th. And the second one is Melanie Costa. They're both town residents. She has been a reserve officer for a number of years in Mansfield. She also has passed the background investigation, physical, medical, and psychological. And a little caveat about her is that she just recently tried out for the Olympic boxing team, and she's going to be turning pro as a boxer. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Is she going to be around when she takes that title for boxing?
I don't have any questions. Just want to thank them for coming forward. They sound like very good candidates, and I'm sure they'll do the town proud like the rest of the force.
So we have a civil service process. We have to take an exam, and then we hire from a list. It's a competitive process, and they came out on top, so even in the oral board interviews. So
I'm not sure, but I think I know one of the people they're replacing.
yes, there might be a name.
I'm sure they're a step up from that particular person. Evidently, I'm not getting a free drink at my brother's house. Would you please read the...
Absolutely, be a pleasure. Notice of appointment of full-time civil service police officer for Michael Units. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen that in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as a full-time civil service police officer. Ashley Sabati? Said appointment was made on February 4, 2020, in accordance with the provisions of the Norton Charter, and will be effective February 19, 2020, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to that date. However, I specifically request the Board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of February 17, 2020.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Round two. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen that, in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as a full-time civil service police officer, Melanie Costa. Said appointment was made on February 4, 2020, in accordance with the provisions of the Norton Charter, and will be effective February 19, 2020, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to that date. However, I specifically request the board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of April 13, 2020.
Any questions? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the appointment.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Also unanimous.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Congratulations.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Ashley, welcome to, Ashley and Melanie, welcome to Norton Police Department. Hi, Chief Clark.
I switched chairs. This one looked more comfortable.
We received a letter asking to appoint Frank Fogarty as an alternate member of the Industrial Development Committee. I don't know if Mr. Fogarty's present or not.
He is not, he has work this evening.
Okay,
This is an excellent letter.
so I know you people need all the help you can get, right?
Yes, we're looking forward to him joining the team.
So Chair will entertain a motion to approve Mr. Fogarty as an, I believe, as an alternate on the Industrial Development Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Under licenses and permits, we have an application of Mack and Waltz for an entertainment license and a Sunday entertainment license at 363 Old Colony Road. Is there anyone here present? Okay. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. They already have the restaurant and the alcohol license. They do. So, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the request for the entertainment license and a Sunday entertainment license for Mack and Waltz at 363 Old Colony Road.
Can I just ask a question before we do that? What is entertainment inclusive of? Is that like live music?
Is it a
or-
jukebox or music, live music? Live music.
Live music, okay. So moved?
Yes.
We can second and then I'll ask a question.
Second.
Question?
So this says it's an entertainment license and a Sunday entertainment license. What is, so there are two separate licenses?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the Massachusetts brew laws. How you couldn't do things on Sundays that you could do.
So you have to
Yeah,
ask for specific permission to sing and dance on
Yes.
Sunday?
Yes.
Okay,
That one hasn't gone away yet.
okay. I just want to make sure there wasn't a difference for that.
No, it's just because of still, like I said, the old blue laws.
Okay.
So, seeing no other questions, Chair will entertain a motion. Oh, we have it. We have the motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Announcements. First, before you do the announcements, I've received a letter requesting that we have a day of remembrance of several people who served the town in different ways. And their names are Vincent Farini, who served on the Board of Fire Engineers. He was also a prolific basketball player in the 50s. Raymond Patnod served many years on the Board of Selectmen. He also spoke his mind, and I remember Mr. Patnod. He was not shy. But he never held a grudge. He was also a school bus driver for many years and served on the Housing Authority. Carl Jacobs, who served on the Highway Department and was the department superintendent. He had a tremendous work ethic. In the 50s, Carl helped catch a bank robber in the center of town. And on a side note, being a student in Norton, we were not very happy with Mr. Jacobs because the story was, when I was in school, the superintendent was Dr. Splain. And if it was snowing, Dr. Splain who lived down near Plymouth, would call Mr. Jacobs to find out if the streets would be clear for the buses. And Mr. Jacobs would always say, if it snows, I can plow it off the road. You can have school. So we seldom missed days of school when I was going. So, and it was Mr. Jacobs' fault.
So that must have been the early 70s.
It was before that, Peter, but we're not going to get into that. And Peter McKessie, he served many years on the Water Commission. And in their honor, the selectmen would like to give permission to have the flags flown at half-mast. Have we picked it? Tomorrow, in their memory. Okay? Now we'll go to the other announcements.
Okay, we got a lot tonight, so. The deadline to submit articles for the May 18th, 2020 annual town meeting is February 12th, 2020 at 4 PM at the Selectman's office. So that is a Wednesday. From Parks and Rec, Founder's Day celebration is coming back. June 13th, 2020, 5 to 9:30 PM with a rain date of June 20th. Live music, fireworks, family fun. It's free and open to the public. Be at the Yale School at 64 West Main Street. Always a good time. Parks and Rec also has a number of events coming up in 2020. March 13th will be the Spring Fling Social at the Norton Middle School, 6 to 8 p.m. March 28th is the Spring Egg Hunt at Everett Leonard Park, 11:45 to 12:30. Some date in April, TBD, Founder's Day fundraiser, which will be Crazy Sock Day across Norton schools. May 16th is Touch a Truck at Life Church Field, 10 to 2. June 13th is the aforementioned Founder's Day. And then July 6th, swim lessons begin at Everett Leonard Park Pool. So for more information, visit the Parks and Rec page on the Norton Mass website or contact Sharon Rice at rices@nortonmaus.com. We have a very busy year. There is also a sculpture contest for a permanent display at Edith Reed Conservation Lands. The Norton Conservation Commission is seeking nature-themed sculpture for the Edith Reed Conservation Land, 79 North Worcester Street. We are holding a contest for the piece that best illustrates local flora, fauna, or conservation activities and reflects the local community. Entries are due prior to noon on Monday, April 13th, 2020, at the Conservation Office using the required entry form, which I'm assuming that's available online. Some things from Wheaton. Wheaton is hosting a community pancake breakfast Saturday, March 21st, 9 to 11 a.m. in the Emerson Dining Room. The Carnival of Animals is a children's concert, Monday, February 17th at 11 a.m., Emerson Dining Hall Faculty Dining Room. And you can join them at 10:30 a.m. for fun activities and refreshments prior to the performance. Let's see. On Tuesday, February 18th, there's a number of events reclaiming the fierce urgency of now. There's a creative arts showcase from 11 to 5 at Emerson Dining, a reception with contest entrance, Emerson Dining 4:30 to 5:30, MLK Legacy Celebration with Dr. Kalila L. Brown Dean, Weber Theater 7 to 9, and a book signing and reception with Dr. Kalila L. Brown Dean at Haas Concourse at 9 p.m. Tickets are free but must be reserved in advance. Make your reservation. There should be a link on the wheatoncollege.edu page. I think I'm done.
You're all set?
I hope so. Yes.
Mary, do you have anything?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Renee, you?
I'm sorry, I'm just sending a note up to our
Oh.
folks, for announcements, no. I just wanted to make a note, just jack on one of yours for the pancake breakfast. I know we have a lot of them, but this is actually going to include live performances by their students, so I thought that was worth noting, just for folks if they're interested.
Okay. Super. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. The first item of new business is a discussion of a local initiative program application of AR Building Company Incorporated for a proposed Chapter 40B rental apartment project at 195 Mansfield Avenue. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Peter Freeman, Freeman Law Group, representing the applicant. So just quickly, my introductory remarks. First, I'm going to introduce the team. We have from the developer AR Builders, Dan Mankosh and Jason Kambitsis. And we have our architect, Jeffrey Campbell, and from DePreti Engineering, we have with us Brandon Carr and Joe Penny. So my remarks are just to tell you why we're here. We had met with the Select Board previously a number of months ago. I'm not sure if some or all of you were on that board, but even prior to that, we had started by talking to the town and introducing ourselves and the team to your town manager, who was very accommodating and put us in touch with the other town staff people who we met with. We've been to one informal department meeting with department heads and staff to go over, and this is before our application that we submitted to you a month and a half ago, to go over all of the details, engineering and what have you, and that was very useful, the feedback. So we think that we have truly designed a project that is a win-win, because with 100 rental units, they all count on your subsidized housing inventory. With a local initiative program, if you approve it tonight, based on our presentation and the application that you've seen, we would then submit it. We need a letter from probably the chairman to sign, but we would need a letter from the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, I should say, and submit it with our application to the Department of Housing and Community Development. And then they process it, and then we would come to the zoning board to apply for the comprehensive permit. So I really won't say much more. I just wanted to tell you that that's the process. So far, we've had, again, good reactions and cooperation, and we think that we have a good team and a good project that should be a win-win for the town and for the developer and for affordable housing. So without further ado, I think our first presenter is going to be from the applicant, Jason Kambitsis. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Hold on one second. As Peter said, I'm Jason Kambitsis from AR Building. Thank you for being here tonight. Just before we go forward here, also, Peter was talking about we've met with the town multiple times and staff, and we've taken everybody's comments and we've incorporated into them, into this project. We like to work with the town. We don't want to work against the town. And so, it's really worth our time and everybody else's time to sit down and go over this. So we do appreciate the openness everybody has given us and the help we've gotten along the way. So I'll give you a little background on who we are. AR Building Company is actually a over 50-year-old firm located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We build, buy, and manage all of our own property. We have one owner. He owns the entire portfolio of projects. I'm staff, as long with Dan Mankosh, who's the president of the company. We don't sell anything, so the properties that we buy, we hold for portfolio and ultimately for the family, for generations. So over the entirety of this company's existence, we've sold maybe 200 units. So we're a little different than other people in the sense that we not only build them, we manage them, and then we keep them. And that's our intent here with our project. The people you talk to tonight, we go back and we run the company. So any issues come up, people can talk to us, and we're transparent, we're an open book. We're happy to do that. We view these apartments as our homes. We come and we check on them, we maintain them. The better apartment, the better return we get ultimately. So, that's kind of how we do things. So we're not one of these guys who comes in and just leaves it. So, we're happy to discuss that further. So anyways, here's an example of kind of what we do. On the bottom left there is a place in Cranberry, PA, north of Pittsburgh, Chatham Commons. On the top is a property called Highland Hills in Cumberland, Rhode Island. And you see on the bottom there are decks and interiors. That's typical projects that we do throughout the country. So just to kind of give you a footprint, actually, we're in 11 states now. We're now moving into Massachusetts. This will be our first one, and we're doing another one about 10 miles down the road that we're working on. We're not as far along now, but this is really our first one in Massachusetts. We started up here in New England about 5 years ago with Highland Hills. You'll see there, Cumberland, Rhode Island, 198 units. That's been completed. We have another one in East Providence, Kettle Point, 228 units, which we'll have done by the end of the year. Dowling Village in North Smithfield, 88 units. That'll be done this year. Reynolds Farm in North Kingstown, that'll be done the beginning of next year, 225 units. As you can see, Pleasant Valley, which is in Groton, 147. Parcel J in New London, 98. And 60 Mansfield Road in New London, 104 units. That's previously been done. So these other ones, Pleasant Valley and Parcel J, will be done end of this year, beginning of next year. We have other projects in development. Currently, we have another 1,500 units in development that we're working on. So, we're active. We have an office here in Westerly, Rhode Island, that our construction division here. We have an office in Pittsburgh that runs construction and one here. So our guys are here. They're overseeing, and we have about 12 people up here that are managing the properties. We have close relationships with our subcontractors. So we're very tight on the quality and the control in which we do our projects. Again, I just showed you the recent projects on the map, but here's what they look like. On the bottom left is Reynolds Farm in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Parcel J on the top right, and then Kettle Point, and then 60 Mansfield Road. As you can see, the materials we put on it, we use brick, we use AZAC boards, we use siding. These buildings are built for longevity, and that's just what we're going to build here. It's going to have a very similar color scheme. It's its own building. A lot of these are bespoke in the sense that they are reactive to the places in which they're in. This one is definitely that. This will be one contained building. But again, these give you a good understanding of the fit, the feeling. You can even see in the landscaping, we care about these properties. So here's the location of the property. I don't know if everybody's been out to it, 195 Mansfield Road. It's right down the road from the Xfinity Center, off of 495, north of the McDonald's there. We came upon this property last year. We like it for, its location, not only its location in Norton, but its location regionally. This property is on a bus line on Mansfield Avenue. You can get into Boston. You can get in and out of 495. It has a regional presence while also being, on the outside of town there. There's already a lot of things that supplement it around it. The marketplace is there. Of course, there's a McDonald's. So really, this is complementary to these kind of projects. We're doing a lot of projects that are connected to commercial. Just for that reason, people want the ability to kind of be near stuff. They don't want to be in the middle of nowhere. This is on the edge of town, but it still has all the services that people need. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Campbell, our architect. He'll discuss it further. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Campbell. I'm an architect with Rothschild Doyle Collaborative. We've been working with AR Building for about 22 years now. Personally, I've been with them for about 16 years. We do all their new constructions. Everything that Jason shared with you, we've been the architects for. And I have to say, one of the things I really enjoy about working with them is that because they do own and maintain it, they're constantly revisiting the work. And so every time we do a project, it's always evolving. And as an architect, sometimes you do something, you never really know what happens. It's nice to kind of have this revisiting that we do and always this evolution. So I'll go through this pretty briefly. As an architect, I like a lot of pictures and not talking. So there's a few slides in here. I'm happy to go back at the end if there's any questions or anything like that. When we talked about the site, last time when we were talking about it, we were really noting that we have the lake to the east. And the site here, the dark area is the higher land, and then the light area is the lower land, so it does slope a lot as you go off to the east. One of the things we hadn't really recognized yet until we got deeper into the design over the last few months was that there's actually a cross slope as well. So you'll see in the upper left, there's a little more hill there. And once we actually got into the site plan, it caused us to rethink what we originally showed, just slightly. So this is our conceptual plan at this moment. Last time, this was a single bar building. It was all meant to be 4 stories. What we're actually proposing here is 4 stories on the top, and then it slides down to 5 stories on the McDonald's side or to the south. And we're able to really take advantage of the topo and kind of fit in there a lot better. It also gives us an advantage in that we can really create a community space, create an entry that's directly off of Mansfield Avenue. Traffic would turn in. There's a drop-off area there that actually opens up into a really nice commercial or common space that would have a lounge area, fitness area, something along those lines. Because of that slope difference, this can actually be a 2-story space as well, and then there's be a nice pool that has a southern-facing exposure to the south. So we're really excited about where the building's evolved. I'll show you a rendering in a second here. And we also have some floor plans and gone through the whole 9 yards at this point. From the unit mix right now, you see down on the bottom here, we have 27 studios, 32 one-bedrooms, 31 two-bedrooms, and then 10 three-bedrooms. This totals up to the 100 units that we mentioned before. And then this is a conceptual perspective of what that would look like. So at this point, we actually have evolved this so that we've looked at the materials, looked at the exactly what that massing looks like, what the roof looks like. One of the things we wanted to do with this building is knowing that people would be all around it. We didn't want to put the condensers on the ground, so we actually have the condensers hidden up inside the roof. You can see that from this aerial, but that wouldn't be visible from the street. You'll see a lot of brick. That's something AR does like because of the maintenance factor and the fact that in 30 years it's going to look the same. You'll also see a number of porches. One of the things that all these buildings really known for are large porches, so it's a great amenity for the tenants. We also do nice large windows, which allows natural light to get deep into the units and really creates a lot of value in that regard. So with that, that's sort of the general presentation. I did include our LIP application. My intent wasn't to go in here, but again, just for reference, if there's any questions, here we actually, as part of the application, have gotten deep into the design and really made sure that everything works. We've actually, that perspective you saw is actually drawn over a model that we have, so our construction documents actually are based out of that model, so we know that the building will look like exactly like we're showing in that rendering. And that's sort of the underlay in what you'll see here. Before I just touch on that really quickly, I did want to invite Brandon Carr from DePreet Engineering, who's representing the civil engineer on the site, to just kind of talk about some of the utilities now.
Good evening. I'm Brandon Carr with DePreet Engineering. We have offices in Cranston, Newport, Rhode Island, and in Dedham, Massachusetts. We've been doing a number of projects with AR as they've kind of expanded into New England. Some of the sites that they've talked about, Kettle Point, Reynolds Farm, Dowling Village, were projects that we've engineered over the years, and AR has taken portions of those and developed them in their apartment complex. So just quickly on kind of the site engineering for the site, like Jeff said, the building is stepped from top to bottom, so the top is the 4 stories, the bottom of the plan there is the 5 stories. So as you kind of enter the site here, on the northern side of the building where you see the little drop-off circle, you're kind of driving up, grading up to that first floor lobby area in the center of the site, and then it drops down as you grade-wise as you come along the south side of the building to that extra floor exposure, and then as you get to the east side of the site towards the existing reservoir, and that's really where we've massed most of the parking is behind the building, not right up on the street there. So you'll see the short end of the building as you look at it from Mansfield Ave, and most of the parking will be kind of hidden behind the building. And then we've also, just to work with it grade-wise, kind of put our stormwater detention in the back. So it's a combination of underground detention under the parking area and then a basin in the back there, keeping a wetland, kind of think of a 25, 30-foot setback to that wetland edge and then to the reservoir, which is further off our property there. Utility-wise, it's pretty straightforward. Sewer, water, gas, electric, they're all coming off of Mansfield Ave. So you can see the water down at the southern end coming in and then going in the bottom corner or the building there. Electric would be doing something similar with the transformer kind of hidden in that corner. One kind of benefit of having that drop as if you imagine yourself driving in the site and taking that right down to the lower end of the building. By siting that transformer down there, it kind of hides it in that grade change, so it won't be as visible from the street. And with some fencing, the bollards and landscaping around that would kind of create some nice little nook to tuck that transformer in, because that's always one thing that kind of comes in late in the game is where do we put this giant transformer, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and taller. And so it kind of lends itself a nice space to put that. And then sewer, gravity sewer is available in Mansfield Ave, so it's just coming out the northern side of the building and into the roadway there. We don't have any drainage connection to Mansfield Ave. Everything is contained in the site, designed per the state and town regulations. We've had preliminary discussions with Mass Highway because Mansfield Ave is a state road. We've shown them the plans that conceptually kind of led us to what we show here, which also works for us. We'd be applying for a permit from them down the road. We'd be applying for permits through the Conservation Commission for all the stormwater and work in proximity to the wetlands. One kind of site feature that when we had that department head meeting, one concern was fire access to the site and having a single entrance. So we worked with the fire department to propose down, it actually shows up a little bit better on Jeff's plan. You can see down the southern kind of frontage of the site there, that would be an emergency access, so that would be gated for access for only emergency vehicles. So, and the intention of that would be, most of the fire, if the fire truck did respond to the site, it'd be coming from the south. That's where the fire and police are. They can make the turn into the northern one. It's not a geometry issue. It's just in case that entrance is blocked by an accident or something, it's a second access to the site, just having a residential use with 100 units. They did ask for that, and we were able to accommodate that, and that's something we'd be working through the kind of final geometry and treatment of that, with Mass Highway being a state road. So that's really kind of the site design, grading, and utilities. Jeff, you want to?
And then really just for the rest of our presentations, just the rest of that application in case there are any questions about it. I did want to point out it is a modern building. It's fully elevated. Right now we're proposing 2 different elevators that would actually go up, fully sprinklered, NFPA 13R for you sprinkler geeks out there. It's also fully accessible, so the units are type A or type B, what's in the industry. Basically you can get a wheelchair into every unit. And then some of them have different degrees so that they can be fully converted into an accessible unit should they need a rise. So here again, you can kind of see some of the common space where it's open down to below, an on-site sales office, mailroom, parcel room, and then a mix of the units. And then, I know it's not germane really to what we're talking about now, but just as part of that application, we are talking about, the healthy sizing on the units and making sure that they all have ample space and ample light inside. So really just I'll go through this really quickly. So, and then here you can see the elevations, which again are shown in that final rendering that we shared earlier. So with that, that's the presentation. Again, I'm happy to go back if there's any questions on anything, and of course everyone else is here as well if there are questions in that regard.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Jeff. So, as Jeff has said and others, certainly happy to answer any questions, and our goal, knock on wood, is to respond to questions, but also to have you move to support this so that I can move forward with a support letter and then get this into DHCD. Thank you.
Jack.
Great presentation, thank you. Buildings look great. A couple of quick questions. What is this area currently zoned as? Is this residential, commercial?
It's commercial.
It is commercial. I forget the designation, as you call it semantically, but it's a commercial area.
Is it the village commercial or just straight up commercial?
I believe it's straight up commercial.
Okay. Is there septic or sewer on 140 there?
So,
Sewer? Okay, that's good. And then with these buildings being, 4 to 5 stories tall, is that something our existing fire equipment is able to service?
yeah, as they said, they met with all the department heads, including the fire department, to go over all their plans several months ago.
Okay. So the existing equipment, the ladder trucks can reach up there, not a concern?
The question was on the height and the ladder access.
Yes.
They didn't raise any concerns about that. We mostly looked at the geometry around the site and circulation. We can actually take their trucks, put them in our program, and make sure they can drive through the site, but they didn't have any concerns with the height of the building when we talked, and it was the same height when we met with the boards then, so.
All set? Anyone else have any? Mary?
Mr. Chairman, thank you guys for the presentation. Just a couple things piggybacking on what Jack just said. Mike, do you know how the height of this compares to the new ones over on the side of 495?
274 East Main?
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't remember how high.
Okay.
Do you know how high that?
I did that project. I don't remember exactly, so guessing, I wouldn't guess. But My memory is that it's at least three or 3.5 or 4. I don't think it was a mansard design, but there was some, either dormers or something. So, and there were different types also along East Main Street, looked a little different than some that were back around the side.
Okay. So it's hard when people meet with different boards or departments or whatever. Maybe could we just get some feedback from the fire chief to make sure that this isn't an issue that we may overlook? So that would be my only concern with it. The other question I had was, as far as the traffic coming out of there, were you guys required to do a traffic study or anything? That can be a tough road.
Well, two things, certainly good point. We will definitely do a traffic study and present it to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's the stage that, it takes place. When, again, knock on wood, when we apply to DHCD, they review all of these things, and then they would certainly take into account any comments that you make during the comment period, although in this case, it's sort of redundant because hopefully you would have at that point supported it naturally. But they would suggest, for example, that a traffic study is commonly done with the ZBA, and we're going to do one. In terms of the fire department, naturally, that is something that we always have to take into account. Based on what Brandon said, I don't think there's any concern, and naturally, the zoning board also addresses those things. So, again, our intent in meeting previously with different boards and the fire department was to get them to tell us about any feedback.
Yeah. I totally understand that. And I just think, from our board moving forward, is when we have a presentation like this, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have the department heads here so that when questions like this came up, they could speak to it. So that, because oftentimes this stuff comes before us and you're looking for an answer tonight, right? So if there was a really serious concern, we wouldn't be able to maybe vote in favor of you or whatever. So I just think having the department heads here, because you're asking us to approve something that none of us are really experts on. So that being said, I think your presentation is great. The other thing I really do like about you guys is we've never really had a 40B come before us that has shown any interest in staying with their project. So it really impresses me that you are building, managing, and keeping these projects. We've not always had good luck with dealing with 40Bs in the past, so one of the things that bothers me the most is we have a lot of 40Bs on the books, none of them have come to fruition. What's your time frame?
Hi, Jason Kambitsis again. It's funny you say that. We looked at buying those.
Oh,
please. We haven't because there was a lot of issues with them, and they don't exist for a reason. And what happens is some people, I'm not going to speak for other people, but the developments aren't as well thought out as they should be. So I'll just leave it at that. We would start after we get approval. So if it was approved tonight, and as Peter said, it still has to go through the whole process, and then come back to you guys, come back to the ZBA, we kind of see that as the end of summer or something along those lines. We would move dirt after that.
Okay, because we've been pulled along so often with these 40Bs that we really don't have a real clear timeframe on what a project like this should take. So once you guys get, being positive, you get all the approvals in place by the end of the summer, and then you start your construction?
Our thing, if you wanted to say the long-term timeline from that is, from approval, I could say give or take 24 months. And that means it depends on when we can get the site going. It depends on the weather and all that kind of stuff. A building like this would probably take 15 months to build, 18 months to build itself, and then we have to get into the site. So, from when we get a shovel in the ground, it would take 24 months. So, add a little bit there from approvals. What's nice about this is you have to have all your plans ready when you go. So when we go and we feel good about it, we can start pretty close after that. So for us, there's the old adage, time is money, all that kind of thing. We'd like to get started. If we could start today, we would. We're excited about this site. We're excited about this building, really. So, for us, it's the quicker we can get approved, the quicker we'll start.
Okay.
So
thank you.
we appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a couple comments. So in respect to commercial, assuming that this is correct on page 16, it does list that the zoning uses in the immediate area are commercial, not village commercial. We should confirm that, though, but I'm with Mary. I'm not prepared to vote at this point, and I know you guys are, looking to move forward quickly, but I want to hear from the heads. I want to hear from the police chief and the
Chairman?
fire chief.
Yes.
As I said earlier, these plans went before all the department heads, and any suggestions that the department heads had were incorporated into these plans.
That's fine, but I'd like to hear that. I mean, if you're looking for a vote, I think that we have the right to have the discussion with them.
If I may, we could approve the plans with the stipulation that we want.
So we've been in this situation multiple times of quickly approving something. I mean, this is the first time this is put in front of me. I haven't looked at the diagrams. It was an excellent presentation. Right now I have no concerns for the project, but I want more information. Like, I'm done making a decision without the appropriate information and the opportunity to have conversation.
Well, I certainly respect that. I'm not going to try to, promote one way or the other. You certainly know, and you know that we're anxious to get going very quickly. But, I've served on boards myself, and I've been in this town, and flattery not intended, but I've enjoyed working in this town. And, the big one that I did get built, so that was a good thing. And so, again, we, and I'll speak for you guys, as much as we were hoping to come out tonight with the actual vote. Hopefully, it would take no more than, do you meet again in 2 weeks?
The 27th.
So, yeah, it's about, well, it's 3 weeks, okay. Again, we'd love for a vote tonight, but I see what you're saying. And, we, from our viewpoint, we thought we did everything we could to accommodate your concerns in terms of understanding what it was and sending the application, quite a bit ahead of time and working with the town boards, as Mr. Unit said. But, I'm certainly, we're here in a friendly way, and we want to keep it friendly, and so I'm not going to try to twist your arm,
Oh, and I appreciate that. You're stuck in an unfortunate situation, and we have process issues, and, unfortunately, it's going to cause a delay. I have no problems if we want to meet together prior to the 3 weeks or school vacation and just talk about this with the chiefs. I have no problem with that, so that we don't delay this for 3 weeks, but.
Could we put together a meeting maybe some night next week?
would it be useful, speaking to all of you, but through the chair, I guess, would it be useful if any of us who can come to that meeting, or do you view that as purely internal with you and the board? I'm just asking if you think that would be useful for anybody of our team to be at that meeting with you and your staff.
If you would be interested in doing it, that's fine, but we certainly don't want to inconvenience you. I mean, it is a discussion. I imagine that, you know, the questions that they would have, that it's probably addressed in the materials, and if not, it's something that we can reach out separately. But it's entirely up to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, you know, when you're scheduled, you can let us know, and we'll see what we can do.
So we'll put a meeting together next week. I don't know the exact date yet. And then we can follow up with the, before I go any further, we'd like to speak with the fire chief, police chief, and any other specific person you want.
Is there a reason we would want Chris Carmichael as well?
And planning board.
A planning board representative?
No, I'm sorry, planner, the planner, Paul.
Oh, Paul.
Okay?
Would there be any benefit to having Dr. Bayetta come in from the schools? Seeing that there's 100 units, there's going to be some kids there coming in. At least give them the opportunity to come in.
I personally, I don't think it's, you know,
Maybe not a discussion point, but notification to him that it's something that we're considering.
yeah, but I don't think it's really something that would be in his ballpark, really.
It's another voice to understand, or just give them a heads up that there are potentially some dozens of children that could be coming into the school system,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Possibly. It's just that the majority of the units are not multi-bedroom, so that it decreases the family sizes. But no, I mean, yeah, we can notify him if he wants to.
Yeah, just give them the opportunity to come in,
Then
and
it's fine.
Great.
So, police chief, fire chief, Paul, the town planner, and notify Dr. Bayetta.
And I think Chris, right? And Chris Carmichael.
Oh, building inspector, yes.
Do we want conservation, since this is buttoned up against reservoir?
No, because I think that's a whole,
Okay.
yeah? You do?
No, I don't think we need conservation, because they
They
have to
have-
go through that process
Okay.
anyways.
Right.
I think just a little bit of feedback from the department heads that all of our,
T's across.
the concerns that we
Right.
have as a board have been addressed. If we get too into it, then we become part of that process, and I don't
Right.
think we want to do that.
Okay,
We'll shoot for next Thursday at 6:30.
is that all right with everyone here?
Should be fine.
Wait, next Thursday at 6:30?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? That should be fine. I had a meeting Wednesday, that's why.
Well, let's have it Wednesday then.
If you want to do it Wednesday at 6 and I go to my 6:30, I'll be sitting in the same seat, so that would be perfect.
Okay. We'll tentatively schedule it for next Thursday at 6:30.
Okay.
Okay?
And then we'll assume that we'll be back here, hopefully for a vote on February 27th.
No, we'll take the vote.
No,
We'll take the
we'll
vote next week.
Oh, you can vote next week?
Yeah.
Oh, if you're doing a formal meeting, oh, that's even better, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
sure.
appreciate, we understand.
Oh,
our
okay,
situation.
great.
We don't want to hold you guys up anymore, but we just want to make sure that we're all comfortable.
Okay.
With going forward with this.
Super.
So, to expedite it.
We
That's
thank
why
you very much for that.
That's why we
Not
should do
you.
it next week.
It's us.
Yeah, I know.
Mr.
No,
Chair,
that's very accommodating, I appreciate it.
are there any comments from the community?
Anyone in the audience have a question?
Peter.
Yes, Peter?
Yes, Peter Wiggins, 157 Mansfield Ave, Trail 43, Honorary Mayor in Norton, and about the traffic, it can get very, very busy when there's concerts at the Xfinity Center in the summertime, plus the the Northern Trust Open coming in August, the golf tournament. It's gonna be busy, busy with traffic. Plus the Roach Brothers Plaza can draw traffic around that area.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Anything else? Okay. I think I've covered all the bases then. We'll meet next Thursday at 6:30. We'll speak with the people who actually know what's going on in town and can delay, make it so we don't have any years of making a mistake. How's that?
Absolutely. No, we want you to be comfortable, and again, we're confident you'll come to be totally in support, but we understand, and again, thank you very much for doing that scheduling just a week from now.
Okay?
Okay, great.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the Brownfields Site Assessment Grant for 47 Elm Street.
We were awarded a grant, a $100,000 assessment grant. I want to thank Representative Barros and Howitt and Feeney for their involvement, and also the planning director, Paul DiGiuseppe, building commissioner, Chris Carmichael, and the health agent, Chris Sarner, as well as civil environmental consultants for helping out on this grant. And this will go to determining what is on site and what the cleanup would have to be. So I'd like to thank them for that.
Any comments, questions?
Is this a grant, or is this something that needs to get paid back?
If we sell the property or a developer comes in and takes over the property, then they will be responsible for paying that back.
Okay.
As long as we're not holding the property yet, but as long as no one is buying the property and developing, it's not a payback.
Okay.
And if it became town property, the town is not liable.
Town is not liable to pay back.
So, okay, so if the town takes ownership of that land, that's,
It's
Been held on to it.
okay.
So, and I know I asked this before, because it's on number 5 that it talks about the reimbursement date. Right, and it's, are we clear on that? Like, it does have the stipulation if it changes hands, right, if a developer goes in, but number 5 says that, specifically that, there's no interest unless it's not paid on the reimbursement date.
And the reimbursement date is the date that it changes hands. If a developer bought the property, that would be the reimbursement date.
Is that defined somewhere in here? Because I just don't know why they wouldn't call it something else.
It does, it says in there, I'm not exactly sure where, I'd have to look. Date of transfer of property to an unrelated party will be the reimbursement date.
Where's that, Mike?
If any, all, or any portion of the site is sold, conveyed, gifted, demised, ground leased, or otherwise transferred to an unrelated party, such event will be a reimbursement date on the first page. Number 3.
Now, in this, I mean, we don't have ownership of this?
We do not.
No, I'm sorry, that was a statement, not a question. It's odd. So who would an unrelated party be? If we don't own it, it would just be anyone?
Anyone other than us?
And then, so how do we make sure that our interests are served, that this $100,000 is attached to that property if it is transferred to somebody else?
If it's transferred to somebody else?
Well, we don't own it, so we can't say that somebody's not going to take the property, right? So if somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm gonna buy this, who do they buy it from if it's abandoned? I guess that's the first part of the question. The second part is, then how do we make sure that if they buy it, that this $100,000 is attached to that?
Well, that's something that the estate, obviously, you have to be concerned about.
Well, I
Sure,
think
they
the
have
town
a
of Norton would have
process
to be
in
concerned
place.
about it if it's saying that we will owe $100,000 back for the recoverable grant.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look at it, it'll probably be in the final agreement that they send to us, that it'll be spelled out, but right now, I don't know how to answer your question. I mean, we don't own the
Can you-
property.
Right.
but-
So,
Right, but we're about to accept, I mean, you signed this to accept $100,000, right? So we accept that money, we're on the hook for it later on if that property changes hands. So how do we make sure that if that property changes hands, that $100,000 goes with it and we're not stuck with the bill?
I would
And,
assume,
I'm not expecting you to answer it now, can we talk to town council and
I
make
would
sure?
assume, like with any properties that, like if they had back taxes, the town would put a lien on it.
So can we change that assumption to fact and just find that out from council? Nothing like finding out in the 10th inning that we owe $100,000 on something that we don't own.
Better to put the lien on it now. So that way,
Right, if we have to,
if it happens 10 years from now, none of us are around, the town's still protected.
yeah.
I would think that would be a simple, relatively simple thing for us to do. It's just put a lien on the property. If we don't own it, then just, I don't know exactly who to, I don't know if it's the treasurer or whoever.
Right, let's just-
Put the lien on.
Yeah, let's just find that out and understand the process that we should be following.
Can we commit to having a follow-up on that at the 27th meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
When do we have to sign it by? When do we have to accept it by?
We have accepted the grant as of January 2nd.
So the next question is we don't spend the money until we know that we're gonna get it back.
We don't allow the property to be transferred.
Well, then what's the point of doing a mass development study on it?
At least we know it's there.
The property's there? Or
At
the
least we would
study?
know what's there,
What's on the
what's on the site, what other
Oh,
hidden
oh,
fun beneath the soil.
Pandora's box. Is that what it's really looking for?
I think that's what the grant can be used for, right, Mike, is to
Say
do
that.
further environmental assessment.
It's all
Site.
for assessment, yep.
Yep.
And the state will, any bills we receive from CEC as part of the assessment will go to Mass Development, and they will pay them directly
Out of that 100 or on top?
out of the 100.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think it's fantastic that we got this. This is a lot of money on a tough site. So, I mean, that, our concerns about the money isn't to downplay the greatness of getting this grant. So kudos to you guys for working on this to get it done. And then, you know, I just think it's, like these guys have just mentioned, in our best interest to figure out what we do have to do to get the lien on it or whatever we have to do to prevent that money in the future.
And I know Paul is working on a couple other grants, so it's a lot of work.
But, you know, it is a lot of work, and we don't get that many
I can
of them.
tell you about the
So,
other grants that
thank you.
he's working on if you'd like.
Go for it.
Oh, Paul's here.
Yeah. Hey, Paul. Paul was hiding.
I was going to
right-
say, we can thank him next week.
He was hiding right in plain
Yeah,
sight.
we can thank him next week when he's here, but he's here.
I'm here, Paul DiGiuseppe, the planning director. So in addition to the assessment grant that we received from Mass Development, we have another assessment grant that we've applied for with the EPA. We should be hearing about that probably in March. Also in March, we should be hearing from another Mass Development grant called the Site Readiness Grant, which we've applied for, which we could then apply for the demolition of the remaining funds. So all of this is up in the air at this point. We have another grant we will be applying for in March. We think we're applying for because this one's a little bit more complicated. I just don't have the resources to apply for this particular one called the Community Development Fund. But that money could also be used for demolition and other infrastructure and some other work on that site. So we have to see if we can get assistance putting that grant together.
And how much is that grant, Paul?
It could be up to $800,000, non-repayable.
And how much would a resource be? And I'm going to say this for across the town, because I think a lot of different groups struggle with this, to get somebody who can write grants.
Well, right now, we're trying to see if a person at CEC who, we could potentially use the funding that we already have to do it. They're going to get back with me tomorrow to see if they would even consider it. If not, we'll work with someone at SERPID and then figure out, they're going to have to make SERPID, Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District, which is our regional planning agency, would give us an estimate of the cost, and then we just have to then determine, is it worth the money to do it?
Okay. I asked a question because we're looking at budgets now, right?
Right,
So if it's
right.
something that we think, I've heard this from a couple other people, not just you. Jennifer was here and said the same thing, that she doesn't have time to write grants. So maybe it's something we look at across the town, if we can get somebody who is skilled in this area and can cover, various subject matters.
Yeah, it would be very helpful. These other grants take days to complete.
Right.
And this other one, I went to a training for this Community Development Fund, and they even tell you, small towns, get a grant writer to do it. And looking at it, it's a lot. So, and we just, right now, with everything we have going on, we just don't have the capacity to do it. And I'm not sure I even have the skill set for this one to get some of the things. So, SERPID has a person who could do it, but we just need to get some estimates from them, assuming CEC doesn't pick it up and do it.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that if a grant writer would pay for itself,
Right.
right, so it would actually probably be one of the most profitable departments that we had, so I can't see any downside. I don't know what a grant writer goes for, but you just secured a $100,000 grant. I'm sure that would be more than cover one person's salary for a year, and then piggyback the other grants that he gets or she gets for conservation, for the schools, for your department. It almost seems like a no-brainer that we would go out and hire somebody as a grant writer.
So Mike, can you talk to your department heads about that?
Yeah, and there's also I know when it comes to CDBG grants, there's companies that you can consult with that will do the grant writing for you.
I mean, I think again, like if it's, collectively we look at, I know other people can do it, right? And collectively we look at what we're paying and it's in excess of actually having somebody to do that for us. I mean, it might be in our best interest to do that. But if you can get a feel from everybody on their thoughts, I think we should entertain putting it in the budget.
Be easily quantifiable.
Right.
Or at least get a comparison of what we're going to have to pay someone or versus what we have to pay as a second entity, such as Southeastern Regional.
And we're working hard to try to get grant funding, especially for Reed and Barton, but certainly other things. But as much as we can get grants to cover these projects, and it doesn't have to come out of the town, that's what we're trying to get. Certainly, I'm sure there were options we, obviously talk about with Mike about what options there could be for grant writers. But again, there's plenty of other grants out there, even for Reed and Barton, we're going to need to apply for.
We just don't have the time, right?
Well, it depends on the complexity of it. Mass developments, wasn't that difficult and it wasn't that time consuming. EPA was hard. The mass housing and community development, that's even harder than the EPA grant. So some of it we can do in-house. It just depends on the grant we're applying for. But our goal is to be able to get that site, get the buildings removed. Because if you get the buildings removed, then assessment and cleanup is a whole lot easier. So we need to do that, and we're also trying, the other thing we need to really move forward on and get support, get funding for, is to do what they call a feasibility study or a reuse study, because we need to now be able to start having a study that can actually tell us what do we think could actually go there, and then work with the community also to see what does the community want to see there. But we need technical assistance for the feasibility study too. So that's on our radar. Mass Development's great about contacting us when things are available, and they know this project very well, so we want to get that. So, whatever help we could possibly get on certain grants. Others I think we can still do in-house, but others, if we can get help, that might be a good direction for us to go in.
So I did a quick Google search, and looks like the average salary for a grant writer in this area is between $50,000 and $80,000 a year. Seems to me that's something that could easily pay for itself based on some of the grants that we're talking about now. And if you open the purview up beyond just the planning and conservation, and you include the educational side, I know that there's a ton of educational grants that could be gone after as well. It just seems like a real win for the town to be able to do that. And sometimes you need to spend money in order to save money. I think this is one of those times that we should seriously consider either creating a position or putting money aside to do that in the very near future.
Mr. Chairman, and further to what Jack said, it's not even a question of saving money. There aren't many opportunities where we could pay somebody, say top of the pay scale, $85,000, and have them bring in $300,000, $500,000, $700,000. And every penny that comes in through a grant is potentially money that we're not spending on our budget side. So I think that we, unless there's a really good reason why we wouldn't have our own in-house, because the problem with going out and having different companies help us for different ones is they don't have our best interests. They're working for other towns at the same time. They're not just taking on Norton for a specific grant. So I would, is there any reason why we can't just make this go forward?
Well, let's do some research on it. I mean, and we'll also see how many communities are using grant writers. I don't know how many have them and how successful they are, but we should check into, I could see setting some money aside that we could use possibly to hire a consultant, or we'll check into also hiring our own grant writer, but see what other towns.
Even if it's a part-time position or something like that, I think there's definitely value
Yeah,
I mean-
I'm less concerned about comparing us to other towns on this particular aspect, because they might not be in the same fiscal situation that we are, or have a property like we do.
But I mean, if other towns, in the vicinity are working with people on a part-time basis, it might be someone that we could
Might be
pick up.
resources, yeah.
If somebody's working 20 hours, say for Mansfield, they might be willing to do 20 hours for Norton. And that way there, it'd be a savings, and we'd still be getting the service. So it might be, a way of almost sharing a person. So, I mean, it's worth looking at. Because, I mean, I'm sure that grant writing, it's an art in itself. It's almost like writing a book, I think. But there's going to be limits on what the town of Norton's going to need grant writing for, I would think. And so, I mean, if you can share, to me, it makes more economic sense. But, I mean, that's something we can look into. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Paul. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For getting that grant. That's
Thanks,
wonderful.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Update from the Water Sewer Commission. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start, I'd like to maybe add a name to that earlier list that we're flying this flag, half-staff, half-mast for. Clarence Rich passed on in the not-too-distant past, and
Yep.
Butch served on just about every town committee, and I think he would be a memorable addition to that. He was a good friend of mine and a good mentor.
He was very important.
He was
Involved in everything.
for many years, a very involved participant, and I think
Yes.
it would be well served to add him to that list, and I would appreciate that. I'm here to maybe reiterate what you folks already know. Our water filtration plant is online. We have our Mass DEP approval on January 31st that it could be placed into service. Earlier this week, we received our temporary certificate of occupancy from the building inspector. Obviously, there are, I'll call them some punch list items, medium style items, but nothing that would prohibit the plant from operating in a totally good fashion. The superintendent and the operators have been running the plant for, I'm pretty sure, a double shift, but certainly a single shift during the week. I think they took last weekend off, but as the filtration system is online, we are providing water to the town. We're introducing it very slowly, and I will ask the viewing audience and all of you, if you have an issue with water, you need to call the water department, because what we're doing is introducing the clean water, unfortunately, in a reverse direction than it's been going from the holding tanks. So there could be some intermittent disturbances in the lines. We're introducing it at a very slow rate, and we've had very good success with other massive amounts of water at a very slow rate. But if you see a change in the water quality or coloration, please call the water department. They can get over there and assess and flush as quickly as possible, so we waste as little of the newly filtered water as possible. We are currently operating off of one well. Well 5 is the only one. It's our biggest producer, and it's plumbed through the filtration plant. We have 4 and 6 offline now as a backup in case something happens with the plant while we are in this baby step phase, if you will. But again, if something happens, please, you need to call us, and we can address that situation immediately. Over the next several weeks, the water will continue to be treated and pumped into the water system from number 5 only. Once the operators and the staff are comfortable with the volume, quality, and amount of water that's coming out of our newly refurbished well 5. We're going to shut 4 and 6 down completely. We're going to rebuild the pumps and clean the wells, and then get them back on through the plant itself, and we'll have all 3 wells finally in 4 to 6 weeks online. This is huge. I'm a water geek, so I'm really excited about this. I don't expect you to share in my excitement, but it wants to get this water and our iced tea water and our dirty water and all the justifiable complaints that people have behind us. This is a very huge first step, and I can't tell you how important this is, but it's very good for our town.
Luke, may I ask a question, please? On 4 and 6, you said they're gonna go online in 4 to 6 weeks. Are you planning on putting them, attaching them at the same time, or are you gonna stagger?
It's a valve issue at this point. It's it's already built in the infrastructure that they're to the plant. It's merely shut off the old supplies that go directly into the system, so it's the wells themselves, Renee, that have to be removed. Whatever maintenance is on the pump itself, the well heads, all that stuff has to be cleaned and upgraded.
Okay.
And then they go back in the ground, and then they will start again through the new plant.
Okay, and then you run it, and it has to, do these still have to be tested? Each time you put a well online through the facility, does it have to be tested?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that. I have a cheat sheet here, and it doesn't say that, so I know the DEP knows the makeup of our water, so well 5, 4 and 6 as well, 4 and 6 as well are in the same little area, so I'm gonna guess and say no, but I will check on that and get back to you.
Thank you.
It seems to be a seamless thing, and as I know, I'm not sure of the actual testing schedule, but I know as a matter of routine, the water from our wells always has been tested, so I'm not sure if this increases that frequency or not, but I will check on the 4 and 6 introduction. And during that 4 to 6 week period and sometime after that, the contractor, Methuen Construction, will also be working on their final punch list. Things like downspouts, gutters, grading around the building, a pad here, a bollard there, little punch list things that we as a town expect in our final product and we're going to get. With the new plant going online, the semi-annual flushing program, we would like to start flushing immediately, but obviously with well 5 being the only well online, we don't want to waste any water. And as the nights are still kind of freezing, I don't know when winter's coming, but we fully expect winter to come sometime. So, but after we get the 4 to 6 weeks when both or all 3 wells are on and our spring flushing program, we believe a significant amount of the iron and manganese will be flushed out of the system, because not only are we agitating the water with our unidirectional flushing program, we're replacing the water in the lines and we're flushing it with this newly filtered water. So the first flushing in the spring will increase the quality significantly, all the way through to the fall flushing. Again, you'll get gradually less out, but if you can imagine, more and more of the sediment in the lines will be, that will be removed by the fall. I think that's that's my punch list. I'm sure you guys have comments, questions, or compliments even.
I have a compliment. My water's been clean for like the past at least 3 weeks. And I've asked questions about why that was. And then when somebody said well 5 is offline, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm on well 5.
It is our biggest producer, but it is probably our least clean well.
Yeah.
And I give all the credit to the folks at Methuen, our water treatment, water staff. They've been working tirelessly. I'm not even sure Frank Fournier sleeps at night. I think he has just been on DEFCON 7 for like 6 weeks now. He operates that way anyway. But with this going online, they're so interested in the new operators. I go to the plant a couple times a week, and there's just leaps and bounds of improvement. It's not just the plant's done, it's the corners are clean, the boxes are out of the way, all the flanges, the valves, it's all painted, it's labeled, it's supported, there's directions, it's the chemical feeds are in. It's all right there, and there's a lot of credit that goes to those folks who are actually with the wrenches, the pipes, and moving the water through the plant and monitoring what they're doing. They're learning a lot, and it's a very good thing for our community.
Good. So staff is working out well.
Promoting from within, they understand the nuts and bolts of what's been going on, but this new thing has kind of brought everybody together, because I don't have to tell you, the water has been cloudy, and for them to go to work every single day and to do the best they can with a product that they can't be happy to produce and, get a pat on the back and say, hey, that was really good. And it's really good that they've been working so long, and that's all fantastic, but to actually now to put in the extra effort and have this fantastic new plant online, it must feel really good to be them, and we're really proud of them. So a lot of credit to them. And again, from promoting from within, we have a couple new folks in the water department itself to replace those guys who moved up, and that's also a very good thing for us.
Great.
And I think we're trying to fill an assistant superintendent position. I don't know when we're going to start for that, but that's something we're looking forward to, also to maybe give Frank a little bit of a breather. But good times at the water department.
Just want to extend my congratulations and thanks to.
I will certainly pass that along to the crews. It's good. It's very good stuff.
I think you've seen it's a thankless job, right? It's not your fault.
You know what, this from the beginning, I was, in my early time on the board, I was part of the group that did the MFN conversion to the sewer, and that's a big thing for our town. And now to see this actually come to fruition, this seemed to take forever. It was hurdle after hurdle after hurdle after burning hoops of fire and hurdle, and here we are, and it's really good to see it actually happening. So there's a lot of credit that has to be passed around, and I'm happy to do that for you guys.
So, and Luke, have you guys, it's a great message to tell people to call if there's a difference in water, because I whispered to Mary that last week I had 2 days where it was awful, like we didn't put the kids, give them baths or anything. After it had been like crystal clear, and then it was boom, like really bad. Have you guys put this like out on the town website or social media to let people know that, hey, we've changed things now, if you have a problem,
Right.
please call?
Yep, so I think I'm not on it, but one of the commissioners, Steve Bishop, is posting things to the Norton neighbors, along with the help who's somebody who's actually working on the Norton neighbors itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also Facebook links
Yeah.
in between that. Again, I'm not on it, so I'm not sure, but I get CC'd all the time about this and that's going up, so they know that the plant is online, they know about the slow introduction nature of the water into the system, and any problems, I think it's 285-0280 maybe.
Okay.
Water Department main line.
Have you looked
You
on
better hope
that?
that's the right number, not somebody's phone number. Like, hello.
Have you been on the Dirty Water site to see if there's,
Yeah, there was one the other day.
I mean, like, is that information getting to that site, do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That site seems pretty insulated, but I have seen a lot of the stuff that's gone up on the Norton Alerts page, and then the things going on to Norton Neighbors. I think Rob Welsh has
Right.
helped you guys out and reposted
Right.
things that are there.
Oh, he's doing a lot of work on this too, and bringing Steve Bishop up to speed on that.
So I just want to acknowledge that that's one of the things that I think you guys took to heart one of your meetings earlier in January, or actually the end of December, about improving communication, and you guys took some pretty immediate steps to do that.
Right.
So just recognizing that and appreciating what you're doing to try to get more word out proactively to the community.
Absolutely, no, thank you for that. We tend to look within, I guess would be the easiest way to explain it, that we're focused on the internal stuff. The plant at that time was really taking priority over everything else, but absolutely, to share the information with the community is critical. And so we're doing the best we can at that. And again, as the water gets more and more improved, the dirty water site may be about, flowers and trees.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be
Or
good.
it'll shift to something else, I'm sure.
Anything else?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with water and sewer, you
Or water to feed the flowers and the trees, maybe, I don't know.
Anyone else?
So
Thank you.
one of the questions that, not related to the water, but might not be prepared to talk about it today, but the water sewer accounts. We had the auditor in last week, and there's pretty sizable balance in there. Do you know offhand if that's normal for water sewer enterprise fund?
Stabilization accounts?
I can't remember what it was called, and I forgot to bring it with me, but it was high seven figures in terms of available balance on hand.
Right, we have those stabilization accounts for emergencies, if we have to provide bottled water. I mean, I'm a water geek, so I hear about other communities having these issues, and the name of the town escapes me at this moment, but one town not too far from us was on a bottled water order for, I think, 12 days or something. Peter, who had a bottled water order locally? Some town around here. You didn't hear about it? All right. Sorry to put you on the spot. You usually know these things. But it's those funds are rainy day funds, and I don't want to scare people, but we consume quite a bit of water, and if things go bad, it gets very expensive very quickly. So we try to have as much on hand as we can. We try not to make it excessive, and if it does get to be a lot, we do smaller projects without borrowing with that money.
And that's, I think you guys put aside, was it somewhere around $2 million a year for capital projects out of your enterprise fund?
Well, that is our goal going forward. That was at one of the water rate meetings that we shot for that, and that's what we're trying to do. Some years it's going to be, 2.8 or $3 million when we do a bigger project. Some years it might be 1.2, but that's our average overall upgrade in our 10-year plan.
Okay. I just, seeing the available balance on that, coupled with the increase that people got on their water bill.
Right.
Try to have a conversation on, is there any opportunities there to reduce the increase going forward? Because I know this one is the first step in several to
Right.
pay back the bond for the treatment plan.
Right.
thought there-
Bridgewater?
It could be Bridgewater. You're all right.
Yeah!
You were surfing and found that. I'm proud of you. It was Bridgewater that's, a couple weeks back, I think, had a multi-day bottled water, beyond boil water, bottled water. And it's crazy expensive.
Okay.
And that's just one issue, but,
I think there was some discussion about that money, and some of that money was being used for the replacement of the pipes,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. In conjunction with the treatment plant in our overall water master plan, the upgrade of our worst pipes in certain areas will eliminate a lot of the problems with the dirty water.
And is that project still progressing? Like what are some milestones?
We have, I'm not sure when Pine Street has gone out. I was really just talking about the water
That's fine.
treatment plant tonight. The projects have, I think Pine Street is either out to bid, and we've gotten some responses, but we haven't got all the bids back, and we certainly haven't had a bid opening yet. Construction season is usually in the spring, so if we hit over the course of the winter, you have the opportunity to get some of the better contractors that haven't had so many contracts awarded yet. So you get, right out of the gate, I think we got, I don't know, over 10 bids on that. So that's I think, the Pine Street one.
Okay. Do you guys have any, and if you don't know that, that's fine, but do you have any projects that talk about like increasing, like how do we improve the infrastructure around town? Like not specifically attached to a condyne development or something else? Like to get
Well,
sewer lines?
some of that is exactly those. The folks that did the 274 East Main Street did quite a bit of water main for us. Condyne's doing quite a bit of sewer. I mean, sewer serves their project, but it does increase the infrastructure. And Condyne's also done some water main upgrades on Leonard Street. And anytime we can get a developer to acquiesce and kind of assist us by bringing water mains and sewer mains to their project that they need, it helps everybody at their expense and not so much ours. But we still have our projects that are planned and ongoing.
Okay, do we ever try to piggyback on their projects to extend it a bit, like at potentially a lower cost to us?
274 East Main Street, we required them to do the entire thing that we needed,
Okay,
or they needed, but it helped us as well.
gotcha.
So, yeah, I do a lot of that. That's one of my specialties, is negotiating extra miles of pipe.
And then what about, I'm sorry, Jack, did you have another question?
Go for it.
I was just gonna ask, I thought of this earlier when you were talking about the bottled water, the dispenser. Has that been changed into the new, with the new?
I don't believe it has. I know we have the parts, but I think we're gonna experience an off period where it gets shut down and tested.
Yep.
I don't know when that's gonna happen. I've used it a couple times. It seems to work okay now. I know that when we put the new filter in, it's gonna work a lot better, but I'm just not sure when.
Okay,
And it could already be in. Again, I've been crazy at the treatment plant and all treatment plant talk, so that thing, hopefully will be replaced by really good water in the lines.
I hope so too.
Do you remember when the rate hearing was that you guys held in the library? Just trying to pull back up some
August.
slides. Was it August?
I think it was August.
'Cause I think you guys had in there how many pipes you had replaced, and so you guys have the master plan of replacing like the main pipes, and I think it's just relevant to what you were saying.
I think it was it was a 60-40 split. Either 60 were done or 60% were left. I know, I can't, I know I wrote it down.
I'd be freestyling, and I'm not gonna do that right here.
I wrote it down in my notes, but that's all I can remember.
Yeah, I can't seem to,
And it was, the cost was,
A lot.
I can't remember if it was like 2 million per year.
2 million a year in our 10-year plan is 2 million a year.
10 year or so, 10
Right.
year or something, 22 million? It's ringing a bell.
That's exactly it, 2 million a year.
yep. I can't find it.
I know, we can look.
And
later.
we have already done, prior to my arrival on the board, and not that that means anything, it just, I know the superintendent when I came on, all he really wanted to do was replace water main. Didn't think we needed plants, didn't think we needed this, didn't think we needed, he replaced water main. So we have had already quite a bit of water main. And you really have to temper the outlay of huge infrastructure increases with, now we have clean water to put in. So maybe as we replace some mains, the water overall gets a lot better, and then we can focus on, just like I said, the worst of the worst. And and we have our triaged worst of the worst, and we'll work through those over the next few years and flush and put in the nice clean water, and it will improve the quality of the water at every faucet.
That'd be great.
So, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but just going back to about the rate increase and the revenue generated, I think between the water sewer accounts, there was like a net profit of somewhere around $2.7 million last year. I know you need to start paying back the bond on the water treatment, which I think was around $670K per year for the next 10 years, 20 years.
The 670 figure sounds correct.
Yep.
Again, without the figures in front of me, I'm stretching.
I know, and I wish I had mine in front of me as well. I'm just thinking, if you're generating revenue of north of 2.6 million, you're looking to put 2 million aside for your capital projects. It seems that could be done without increasing the rates to people. And maybe that's just a short-sighted view on my
Well,
part.
those aren't profits. We have to operate the system, the employees, increased employees now. We're taking a hold off on, running before we can walk. I mean, this $11 million treatment plan is more than the water department has ever taken on. We're obviously not spending it at one time because it's borrowing, but we're gonna let the financial aspect of our department settle down with our $2 million, whether it's borrowing or from what we call light surpluses that are available in the stabilization funds. And then reassess annually, as we always do, and act conservatively, because we're an enterprise account and
Right.
our objective is to self-sustain.
I think the next rate increase goes into effect at the start of the fiscal year, right? So is that July 1?
Correct.
So I don't know if that's something that you guys could look at and just see where things are at to try to minimize the increase to residents.
Right, I think what we came out with was a 2 or 3 year stepped program.
Yep.
And again, annually, we review at budget time and the fiscal year end as well.
Yep, okay.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant.
Thanks, Luke.
Mike?
Mike.
The next thing he can.
Oh,
We got
that too.
Yep, we got
Antenna
towers.
space?
oh. Vote to award a license of the tower antenna space in land for wireless communication facility on Cottage Street, water tank, and to approve and execute a lease agreement.
So, T-Mobile was already on the Cottage Street water tank, and their 20-year lease was coming up at the end of the fiscal year, so we had to do an RFQ, and T-Mobile came in at $36,000 annually with 3% minimum increase each year. So we'll be working to get you the lease to sign. I just want to have you vote to accept the T-Mobile $36,000 and 3% minimum increase each year.
When I ask for a motion to approve the lease with T-Mobile.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, is there any discussion?
Just a quick question. I thought that we had an update from Frank at some point about this particular tower and it needing potentially to be replaced.
Right.
How is that impacted by this antenna? Like, are we gonna incur any costs if we?
When
have
we
to
drop
replace
that tower, we're gonna jump those antennas over to the new tower.
it? Okay, so it's a,
I'm messing with you.
yeah, I didn't think, well, I mean, you could potentially do that, but I actually thought that it wasn't going to be a one for one.
These things happen really slow. If we make a cost-benefit analysis on the viability of this tower, we'll certainly have one up before it goes anywhere, and
Okay.
anybody with an ongoing lease will be transferred to the new tower, and as well may be joined by others. I think two other companies did not renew their leases. Is that what?
I don't know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet, but if only one's come back, I know there were a couple other people on that, so, and maybe they didn't jive with the, I know one was almost already expired, but, yeah, absolutely, they get moved to the new tower.
Okay, so no.
Or if there is a new tower, I'm not jumping ahead. It doesn't make sense to us if the expense of rehabbing, upgrading the existing tower that's very old versus the cost of a new one, we have to check on that. See how far going into the future the new one will last, and the upgrade to the older one would be. It's a rather complex, expensive thing. But yeah, any ongoing leases would go over to the new tower.
And this presents no problems with you guys doing the work you need to do?
Not so much. They do that all the time. If it were repainted, they'd repaint it in sections.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
I had a question, Mr. Chairman. Just out of curiosity, where does the money from the lease go? Does it go to the water department?
Because water enterprise.
Did it say how much?
36.
That one's 36 at 3% increases annually.
Anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, that's it.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Luke.
Okay. We have no old business, so town managers report.
Just give you an update that Jennifer and I met with representatives from the Department of Fish and Game, and we'll bring some information to the next meeting on the 27th. They're looking to do car top access at our property on Mansfield Ave. So they're going to provide us with information that you'd have to review, and they're going to look at developing a parking plan for that. But they did a complete study of the entire reservoir and don't feel that it's suitable for high-speed boats.
Okay.
And so they're proposing just rooftop access, canoes, kayaks.
So holistically, so we've been putting boats in that water, but they're saying that it's really not
They-
designed, even jet skis?
Jet skis are okay. It's just any large power boats, they don't want to go through. There's not any area that's deep enough that they feel that they could put a ramp in to support those sized boats. It's just not worth it for them, so they're only proposing the car top access.
So does that change people putting boats in? I guess it's two things. So one is, was the discussion in respect to putting in a ramp, or a discussion in respect to should those boats be on the res?
It was into putting in a ramp.
So to Renee's point, how does that impact the ramp that's currently being utilized at that Juniper Beach? Yeah,
It would still be as is.
okay.
It's not going to be under their control.
That's not really a ramp, is it?
No, just an access.
Okay, but if someone's done a study and say that there's no points on that is adequate for putting in high-speed boats, why are we allowing high-speed boats to go in on that?
We'll have that discussion.
Okay.
On the 27th? Is that when you said we're talking
Yeah.
about, Mike?
Yeah.
I think most, I could be wrong, but I don't know if most of the boats that are going into Juniper are considered high-speed as much as bass fishing boats.
They've talked about some high speed. They had some sort of races or something going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mike, for that discussion on the 27th,
Yeah.
could you find out, I think we're bound somewhat because federal money was used in the reservoir. Can you see, could we just prohibit motorboats on the reservoir? I have a feeling we looked into this before, and I think because of federal money, we're not allowed to, but maybe we could find out what we do have as options, and then that would help us make a decision on how we want to move forward. Because if we are able to limit or prohibit motorboats from the reservoir, then we can just close down the Juniper Beach access.
Okay.
To boats. I mean, that's the
To
interesting thing,
motorboats.
right, to Jack's point, if they went around, they said there's no place
Yeah.
where we could have a boat launch, then, I mean, why are we doing it?
Right.
And,
Like regardless of a federal restriction, if
Right.
it's,
well, if they say, if federally law says that we can't because we took the federal money, then we're tied into it. But then the other side of that is it is a safety issue because the reservoir isn't made for high-speed boats and we don't have any way of policing it. So I think it would be interesting to know what we have as options because we did use the federal money to.
Yeah, my recollection is that because of the funding that was used for the purchase, we couldn't ban people from, using boats on the reservoir, but I could be wrong.
even if there's no way to put a boat ramp.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they negate each other, I guess
Well,
that's
it's just the state, I think, is saying it isn't financially feasible for them to spend the money because it really isn't adequate for the type of boats that they would build their ramps for.
Maybe I misunderstood the message then. I didn't know it was tied to financial feasibility. I thought that it wasn't deep enough.
But I think they were going to pay to put a boat ramp in. But I think, I wasn't in any of the discussions, but I would think that I've seen some of the ramps they've put in, and they're extremely well-built, and I'm sure they're very expensive. And I think they're meant for a larger number of boats than the reservoir would accommodate. I mean, I only remember years ago, many moons ago, when I was younger, and
In the 70s, right?
actually, I think it was the 70s. You had to, if you had a motorboat and you were going across the reservoir, you had to have a stockpile of shear pins because there are multiple stone walls submerged in the reservoir. And if you didn't know where the stone walls were, your propeller would strike one of the stone walls and the shear pin would snap. So you'd have to pull it up and pull the motor up and replace it. So I think that's probably part of the problem with larger boats that they would build their type of ramps for. but that's, I'm just speculating.
Well, I look forward to that discussion on the 27th.
And just update on recreational marijuana. I did go to a session at the MMA, and just some suggestions that were brought up by the presenters was with your host community agreement, before you sign a host community agreement with a company, they suggested by law the company has to have a public meeting. They have to advertise in the paper and have a public meeting to let people know where they want to put their operation and what they're going to do. And they suggested that you wait until after that public meeting to sign any host community agreement. They also talked about the state is looking at possibly having like up to 11 experimental sites with on-site consumption. But there's no smoking inside, so it would not be smoking marijuana inside. So I guess you just go and have a few gummy bears or something. I don't know why, what the benefit would be to the on-site consumption, but, so they're going to look into that. And then I gave you, there's legislation to take away our rights to negotiate the host community agreements.
You gave us that?
And what was interesting in that, with that presentation was, I believe the MMA said that between the sites that have been permitted and sites that are pending, 700 in Massachusetts right now. I was shocked to hear that number. But it's changed from the beginning. You know, when the first site opened, there were traffic jams. Like a site opened in Plymouth yesterday, like who knew? You know, you don't have that anymore because there's so many sites that the traffic just isn't the issue that it used to be.
Okay. No comments?
Just a
Questions?
comment, Mike, you know you can cook with me and bake.
Brownies?
Yeah.
Brownies on Thursday?
Go home and eat them.
But, you know, I don't know the particulars, but.
Okay.
Can I just make a note on that? So we talked about the last meeting, the HCA, right, and we went through it. Just for your guys' information, the IDC met on it afterwards, and there were no real material changes. So I'll be sending, Mike, to you for town council that the bylaw as well as the article language. I'm hoping to get it out to you tomorrow, and then that way we can send all in one fell swoop and hopefully get rolling on it.
Okay. Selectmen's report and mail.
So one thing, and I know we have a stack of minutes to get through, I think we've all fallen collectively behind in reviewing and approving minutes. I think the last sessions that we've approved date back to August. So I think we should all commit to reviewing these and approving them in a more timely fashion. I think because they tend to be at the end of very long meetings, they're the easiest thing to push around, but I don't think that that's fair to the townspeople that would like to be able to read what goes on in these. So if that's something that we can all agree to try to be more timely in our review.
Tentatively, our meeting next week will be very short.
Yeah.
So,
That'll be a quick one.
so why don't we see if we can't knock out some minutes at the end of that one?
Okay.
Okay?
My only other thing, so have we talked about what warrant articles we want to put on for town meeting yet? I don't think so, and the window is closing on the 12th.
We have not talked about that.
So I think this is our last
So-
chance before the 12th to do that out here versus sending an email to Mike. So if there's anything that's on the list.
So I have items, but I think that they're all within the budget, right? We submit one line item for the budget, right?
For,
How detailed is that for the annual town meeting? To say that we're gonna, it's just the entire fiscal year budget,
No,
no?
it's page by page, all the departments.
So for all the departments, you submit a separate line item?
Every department gets an expense budget and a salary budget.
Okay,
The only one that's a total number is the school department.
okay,
They
but,
just, they just get the lump sum, and that's the only thing on the,
so in respect to the articles, so I'm gonna use the grant writer as an example, right? If we wanted to hire a grant writer, do we need to submit a specific article for that now, or would that just be covered under one of the budget items?
It would be covered under one budget,
Okay.
probably planning.
So any sort of staffing, town meeting, like having a line item for town meetings so that we understand what we're actually paying. I know that it comes out in the report that James gives us, but I don't know that we actually have a specific budget item for it. Right, all that would already be covered. We wouldn't have to submit a separate article.
Yeah, town meeting, the only cost is if we have to have, if we're having a large town meeting, we have to pay to have equipment come in.
What about overtime for the police department?
I'll check on, I don't know if, I don't
Yeah.
remember if Lucia pays for that. I'll check on that.
Okay. I mean, we should look into it and figure it out and put a budget item, but I just want to make sure we don't have to put an article on the warrant for that.
no,
No,
it should.
it'll be covered.
It should just be in the budget, I would think.
Do we need to create a new position? Or is that only for union positions? So I remember we've had to, like for water sewer, we had to create, approve, and...
You don't have to create a position. I would have to create a position.
Okay. But would that need to go on the...
Just would be in the, if we were gonna do a grant writer, it would be in the planning department.
Okay, but that wouldn't need to be included on like the charter update or...
Only if it could be put into the wage and salary plan. We will have an article for any amendments to the wage and salary as standard article, so.
Okay. And I think one other thing that Rob brought up some time ago is the Clear.gov transparency reporting. It's something that collects all of the town's financial information and makes it in an easy to review and digest form. I think that that's something that we should look into. I know that would be an added expense.
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about before, the budget's gonna be very tight, and we've looked at that before, and it's between $50,000 and $70,000 a year. It's not cheap.
Okay.
So I would say, I mean, I have a lot of things too for the budget. I mean, I know we're gonna do deeper dives, so I think maybe it makes sense for us to get a collective list, and then we can figure out where it's gonna be put within there. Right, so we can look at it collectively, I'm gonna say collectively about 6 times.
Sure.
So we can look at it holistically and, determine how things are gonna get tweaked.
I think we need to agree what articles need to get put on, because by the next time we meet, the warrant's closed.
Right,
So,
yeah, I don't see any, I mean, I didn't have anything else on my list
Okay.
that wasn't specific budget related, other than the marijuana bylaw, but that's gonna come through the IDC.
great. Then I'm good.
I mean, if something comes up, comes to mind before that date,
And if you have anything that you'd like me to try and fit into my budget, let me know.
Okay.
and I mean,
The town budget, yeah,
if you,
The town manager prepares the budget,
right.
so if you have something that you'd like me to look at to see if I can fit into, let me know.
what I was gonna say.
There will be things that we'll want added in.
Okay, I was going to say, if something comes to mind, let Mike know. And if it does need to, a question on the town warrant, you can put a placeholder
Right.
in.
Well, I think he's answered that he has standard ones now that I think are gonna cover those types of areas.
I know, it's just that
It's something else.
Jack,
Yeah.
Between now and the.
I got the feeling that Jack may still have something
No,
in
it
in
was
his
the-
mind or something, be reluctant to think that he's covered everything. And something might come to mind.
Yeah, I just want to be proactive and not have to find ourselves in trouble when we call another special town meeting in the middle of another meeting. It just, I just want to capture everything up front, so I don't have anything to bring forward. I know Renee's got her stuff going through planning board, so it might be fine.
So if something does come up between now and the 12th that we didn't think about tonight, we can email Mike, ask him to do a placeholder, we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Exactly.
And decide if we want to go forward with it. That's what you were saying, I think.
That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Anything else?
Do you have anything for yours?
I do, but hang on, I have to pull it up because, okay. So, you know what, because the meeting's not that long tonight, I just want to take a minute to go over the It Takes a Community fundraiser that's coming up in March. And, you know, every year I talk about this, it is just one of the best things the town of Norton does to help our families, neighbors in need. So it's now called It Takes a Community. It was originally called the Kathy Bailey basketball game. So it's only going to take me a minute. I just want to read the history of it, just to remind people how this came about and also what it's doing for the town at this point. So in May 2003, Kathy Bailey, a young mother of 2 children, lost her courageous battle with brain cancer. To help Kathy's family with her medical expenses, concerned friends organized a charity basketball game. Recognizing that tragedies similar to the Baileys affect Norton families every year, the charity basketball game was continued annually in Kathy's memory. Over the years, the funds raised have helped many local families through very difficult times. Although It Takes a Community began as a way to support a Norton family facing terminal illness, its mission has evolved to include families struggling with the death of a family member, as well as other situations that result in difficult financial circumstances. Families in need have received funding for essentials like rent, utilities, groceries, as well as holiday gifts, school meals, and sports. As of February 2018, It Takes a Community is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and 100% of the proceeds go towards families in need. We are continuing to honor Kathy Bailey's legacy with the annual basketball game and plan to expand to include a new annual fall event as well. So that's the history of it. And this year's basketball game, Norton Police versus the Norton Teachers, is going to take place on March 6th at 7 p.m. at the Norton High Schools. As I just mentioned, proceeds directly benefit the Norton families. The Masters of Ceremonies will be Stephen Bishop from Men of Many Hats. There will be raffles, auctions, face painting, balloons. Well, face painting and balloons. And if you would like to sponsor this event, or if you have any questions, you can contact the group at itacnorton@gmail.com. The tickets are $10 each. They can be purchased online in advance at www.brownpapertickets.com/event /4492037. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Renee?
How do you get to play on one of those teams? Do I
Are
have to
you
join
police
do I
or
have to join
teacher?
the police department and become a teacher?
I think they take volunteers, I'm not sure.
Find out. Can you hook me up? Okay. 22 is my number.
And I'm gonna be there.
Excellent. You can cheer me on, Peter.
Yeah.
Are you all set?
I'm done.
Hey, Mike, I do have one item that might not be in the budget thing. I happen to actually read the whole line. We talked about several meetings ago, the water bodies, the funding for the water bodies. I think actually you brought it up, Barry. Is that something that's covered in the budget, or would that be a separate?
No,
line
we
item?
have separate articles for that.
Okay. Oh, do you have them already?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I just had notes here on the 2 different amounts for 2021 and 2022. Do we try to do both years?
We have one on the special and one on the annual.
Okay. I don't know why I wrote that for 2 separate ones. The other question I had is, you had sent out an email to FinCom for meeting dates to review budget items.
Right.
And we talked about the joint meeting, that we wanted to do that jointly, but I have seen nothing about that to the board.
What do you,
Well, to review, to have joint meetings to review the budget items, if you're scheduling meetings with FinCom.
all these joint meetings just kind of start making things a little confusing. I mean, the FinCom's meetings are scheduled,
Okay.
so
So
If-
we went
if you
through
want
the
to-
meeting schedule, right?
if you want to attend that,
And talked about joint meetings specifically, so that what was being presented was presented to both boards. so we didn't waste people's times, we didn't have questions.
I would think that would come in handy with maybe planning board articles that you have to approve, or you could have ad hoc people that would go to a planning board meeting on those articles, but, I mean, I don't,
Mike, maybe I can help out here. So I think during the last session, we were voting on things, kind of waiting on to see what other boards were doing. So I think the thinking was moving into this town meeting, if FinCom and the Board of Selectmen and School Committee, or whoever the boards are that are voting on an article, if we would all be there when the person's presenting it. So that way, we don't have to have the department heads come into 2 or 3 different meetings. So we're actually looking to streamline it and get everybody who's voting. So for example, you know how we're always like, well, what's FinCom voting on that? And FinCom saying, what's the Board of Selectmen voting on it? If we all get together at the same time, it's done.
but, so I can see that when it comes to articles, but not the budget. The budget,
Why not the budget?
because the FinCom's not going to be voting on those budgets, they're just going to hear those budgets.
Exactly, but I mean, that's the point, right? The selectmen, I can't get this thing in
Do
there.
the selectmen want to be there for every single, when the animal control officer is presenting his budget, you want to be there for that?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
I mean, that was what we discussed at the last meeting.
They're
that we
open
would-
meetings.
That we, yes, but the point is to have both groups there jointly, right? We would both be in session, ask questions. I mean, I don't understand, and if it wasn't clear when we met last time about this, or when we talked about it at our last meeting, right? We specifically went through the calendar, identified dates where we could meet jointly. And so not to overtax either group, some days the selectmen would meet on a Monday with FinCom, some days FinCom would meet with us on a Thursday. Right, I mean, we specifically talked about doing that. I thought it was clear at the joint meeting that that was going to be the way to go, so I don't understand the disconnect now.
Well, the disconnect part is, first of all, a lot of times department heads don't even present their budgets. I do. The department heads present their budgets to me, and then I make a recommendation to the finance committee.
I understand that, and what we talked about was hearing from the department heads.
But that's not your role,
Why is that not our role?
because you don't do the budget.
You prepare the budget.
I prepare
We have to approve the budget. That is absolutely our role.
So you get my recommendation, and you can approve it or not approve it.
Exactly.
But the department heads present to me. When I first came here, no department heads even came to a finance committee meeting.
Okay, we were just talking about why does the Board of Selectmen want to come in and hear from somebody? I want to hear from the department heads. We should hear from the department heads. There's no reason why it shouldn't be presented by them.
Because the department head's responsibility is to present their budget to me.
So you're telling me you don't have anybody present their own budget? You go in and present the fire department?
I do
present-
now. I'll
Right.
bring them, and if there's questions, they're there to answer them.
Okay, so
But-
what's the disconnect? Why?
Well, the disconnect is if the board wants to go to a finance committee meeting, the finance committees are every Monday from here until May 18th.
Okay, I think you're missing the whole point of our joint meeting where we talked about having the joint meetings to do this. So again, sometimes the selectmen would go to their meeting on a Monday, sometimes they would come to our meeting on a Thursday. So why isn't that happening?
I don't understand what you're trying to do. The finance committee meets every Monday night, and there's a list of budgets that are going to be talked about for the next few weeks.
So I'll take this offline with the chair of the finance committee, and we can talk about the schedule again.
This must have come up when I was not here, because I don't recall this conversation.
We talked about the joint meeting with FinCom. I had a presentation about the timeline, the things that should be going out, the fact of the articles going out that are supposed to be presented to the board and then going to FinCom.
But I guess maybe it went over my head then, the fact that I didn't realize that we were planning joint meetings.
That was the conversation.
Well, I must have missed it, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And that was our conversation last week when I brought the dates separately, that we had worked out to get feedback on whether or not those dates would work if we had any conflict with them. From budget workshops to the discussion with various boards.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some budgets that I personally don't feel that I need to review and wouldn't be interested in attending that meeting.
Okay, then I would say then don't worry about it if you're not interested. And I think it's our responsibility as elected officials to understand the budget and know the budget and have opportunities to ask questions before we're approving something.
Sometimes you don't have to be there to understand the budget.
Yep, sometimes you don't.
I mean, I know there are members of the board who attend finance committee meetings, and I don't see that as a problem. I just don't see where it has to be a joint meeting.
Well, if we have 3 members, and again, FinCom wants our recommendations as well, I don't know why we wouldn't do it jointly so that the questions can be asked once. And I think, Mike, it would help you as well, so you don't have to present multiple times. Right, you present once, we're on the same page, we look better going into town meeting. I mean, I don't understand how that's a hard concept and why we wouldn't try to improve the process.
I think the topic touched on prioritization and how it's the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to set the prioritization for the budget. And it's been, FinCom gets the detailed debrief on the budget, they get to ask the questions, and I don't think we do to that same extent. And then they look to us to say, well, what does the Board of Selectmen want to do? Because there is a gap between what is requested, what they request, what you recommend, and ultimately what is approved by FinCom. There's sometimes 3 different things. So I think it's incumbent on us as the executive branch of the town government to set that priority. So I think there does need to be some sit-down joint sessions with FinCom. I don't know if the school committee needs to be there as well, but I think that is our role.
I don't see why the board can't sit down at one of your meetings and review the budget and give your recommendations. Why do you have to be in the room with the finance committee and anybody else?
I think we were trying to make it efficient by having one conversation as opposed to having 2 or 3. Am I?
No, you're hitting the nail on the head. Or having the conversation of, well, we think this person said that, but we don't know. I mean, there's no reason, like FinCom has asked us over and over again for our opinion to set the priority, right? To Mary's point, we're asking them, well, what does FinCom think about it? Like there's no reason why we shouldn't try to improve this and be able to ask those questions, answer the questions, make people come to us once. If they have to come back, then they come back and they have an opportunity to do it again jointly, so that it's not a back and forth rat race. And so we're not doing the whole purpose of this is so that when we get to town meeting, that we're not scrambling right before town meeting and asking FinCom to make a decision or change their mind or do recommendation or whatever it might be, right? When it's a planning board article, certainly it would be a joint meeting between the 3 boards. I mean, I don't understand the issue and the transparency and discussion. There's only benefits that can come from it. So can you forward that email to us so we can look at it and now have conversations with Bill? So again, we're not overtaxing one group and trying to go to meetings twice a week.
Send you what email?
Send the email that you sent to FinCom with the schedule. And then I didn't get any, you guys didn't have any conflicts with the dates that I gave you last week or last meeting?
To be honest, I don't think I looked at them close enough.
Well, I sent them separately in that email too.
Okay.
The one about the meeting agenda, so if you could take a look and let me know beforehand. And Brad, if you're not interested, then.
Well, I'm not, I mean, there's, like, he mentioned the dog officer. I'm not really concerned about the dog officer's
I'm concerned about every penny that we're spending in the town, especially when we're presented with something that shows we're gonna have a $2 million deficit next year. And that we have a deficit now if you take out free cash. I think that should be a concern that we all have. Right, I think we're really starting to, have opportunities of bringing different businesses into the town, but Mike, your perspective, you think we're gonna make up $2 million in the next couple of years to offset next year's deficit and then the deficit that you outlined for years following?
I wouldn't say we would be able to, no.
Right. So I think we have to find ways of working together and figuring out what are the priorities and, still making sure that we're investing in the town the way that we need to. So, okay, thank you. So I'll wait for that email, and then if you guys get back to me, let me know if you have any issues with those dates, and we'll go from there.
Anything else?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Under warrants and minutes, I'm reporting that I approved payroll warrant PR 20-16 for the week ended January 25th, 2020. Warrant dated January 30th, 2020, in the amount of $1,355,981.77. I also approved invoice warrant AP 20-31 dated January 30th, 2020, in the amount of $1,212,428.93. And I also approved invoice warrant AP 20-32 dated February 6th, 2020, in the amount of $518,075.36. We have no minutes to be approved listed here. I know we do have some minutes that were in our packet. And I assume from our previous discussion, we're going to wait so people, unless everyone here feels comfortable approving any of the minutes.
I'm comfortable approving several. Jen
Okay.
incorporated updates, so certainly.
Okay.
Did you get my emails back, by the way? Yeah, did you get my response that they looked okay?
Which?
Because I saw your note today and I was surprised. I have September 19th as the first one in my packet.
Okay. Are you all prepared for that? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to approve minutes of Selectmen's meeting September 19th, 2019.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll vote present because I was not at that meeting. Next one that I have in my packet is November 5th. Is everyone ready to move on that?
Clarification, so there was only three of us there, Ms. Flaherty, myself, and Ms. Daly. Are we able to approve it without Mike here?
I think technically I can vote.
Right.
An absent member can vote as long as I'm taking the word of the
Okay.
people that were there.
Sorry, and Ms.
So,
Daly.
in this case,
Thank you.
That was
Yeah.
a stroke, I guess. Okay,
so in this case, I would vote for it.
all right.
So yes, we can. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 5th, 2019.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll vote aye also. How about November 21st?
I'm good to go.
Is everybody comfortable with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of November 21st, 2019.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And surprise, surprise, I was at the next one.
I think this is the last one that I got through.
Okay.
Was the 5th.
Is everyone comfortable with the December 5th meeting? If so, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 5th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And,
Can we take them next to, at the next meeting, the
Sure.
December 30th, and
yep, no problem at all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. Next meeting will be next Thursday, the 13th, for an abbreviated meeting. Next regular meeting would be on the 27th. Okay?
Is that the date, the 13th?
I'm sorry?
Did you say it was the 13th?
Yes.
Lucky 13.
The executive session that was, I'm sorry? Had,
I'm sorry, Jack, was this something that you were going to announce?
I looked at it. It didn't seem like there was something to announce.
There's a forget-me-not?
But there's a request for a date. So I don't know if it's a discussion.
oh, usually they'll come in asking if they can do it. What's the date they're selling them, does it say?
First choice is May 30th to 31st. Second choice, June
Okay,
6th to 7th.
Yeah, we have time then.
They're always very early.
Oh, okay.
If it was coming up this week or next week, we'd announce it even though he hadn't come, but.
Okay.
On the agenda, the executive session was listed again. It was an informational. Mr. Units has indicated that it's not something we need to act on tonight. So if Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
I guess I don't have to go for a vote then, do I? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Shane.